'Tis the season for pure, unrivaled insanity, as the title says. Hey everybody, this is Josh Sigurdsson of World Alternative Media here for another episode of WAM News Live. Now, I do want to get to that before I get to all the stories that I want to talk about here today. Just the notion that everything is getting crazier. People, the first thing they think when they turn on the news or open their phone, because people don't have TVs anymore, when they open up their phone and they see a news report come out, they just think, is the world seriously getting crazier? Is it getting more insane, or is it just me? It's not just you, but it's also not that the news is necessarily getting crazier. It's just that we have access to more, and I think they've played people against each other really well over the past several years, causing people to attack each other, infighting, divide and conquer. It's order out of chaos, and I think that's part of a ultimate agenda that's being played out in front of our eyes, and you and I are being played against each other, and we need, and for no matter what we do, we need to not allow these entities to clashes against each other. It's usually regarding collectivism, different forms of collectivism. Pepsi, Coke, red, blue, both are bad for you. Both are basically the same thing, and they are trying to play us off against our neighbors. Anyway, I see that people are tuning into our live stream. We're going to get to the news right away. If for those that aren't aware yet, we need your pledges. We need your help because WAM's about to go under as YouTube is coming down with their new terms of services as of December 10th, which is going to really crack down on independent media. And not just independent media, but literally everyone, gamers, makeup artists, toy reviews, etc., travel vlogs, literally anything, and they could fine us $42,000 a video if they determine that kids, technically speaking, could watch it, even if we say not to. So that is why in the thumbnail today we got the 18 plus. We already have troll signing into our live stream today called Free World, as he says, con man begging for more money, get a life, you sick. You know what? You need to be locked up. Cool story, bro. Cool story. You need to be locked up. Can you imagine the priorities? Anyway, whatever. Trolls will be trolls. I'm just going to put this guy in a timeout because it took him no time to find his way onto this chat and start blabbing on about nonsense. Apparently working 18 hours a day and producing content isn't work, but whatever. Shinobi Wan is tuned in, says Free World can suck a dictionary. I 100% agree. Norman Liu says, hi Josh. Hello to you as well. David Denny says, fight all the way for truth. Absolutely. We'll never stop here at World Alternative Media. We're going to get into some news right away. So now that we have people signing in, make sure to press like if you haven't already. And first, I guess we should go to the story that is making up the thumbnail of this video. We got the Christmas spirit here, but also, what's that? Epstein, Hillary, Bill. It's horrifying. But I don't know. This could give us a little bit of a Christmas surprise. Let's hope for the best here. We're going to get into these stories, and for those that are wondering, what we do here when we do these reports live is we record them live on the air, we tell them live, and then we finish it off live and then cut it out after and put them up as separate videos. Don't go anywhere when we're finished doing the video report. Make sure to make people know in the chat while we're doing it, so we don't lose you in the middle of our video, because we are going to be taking questions. And again, super chats go to the top. So anyway, thanks guys. I'm going to get into a video here. First of all, thank you Shinobi Wan for the New Zealand 349. Here, take some coins, brother. You deserve it. I really appreciate that, man. Always really appreciative of the people out there that are helping us stay on our feet as YouTube cracks down on us. And it's not just us, it's basically everyone. They're shooting themselves in the foot and just going after all creators. Today has been extremely cold and cloudy and drizzly, and it's been hard to stay awake, so I'm literally doing this to help me stay awake. So let's get to the first video here, and then we will get on with this. Let's see, which one should I start with? I'll start with the Clinton one. All right, open up the article so it's ready here, and make sure everything's open and ready to go. I have this issue where only once I've started doing videos will suddenly my browser stopped working properly. And so I want to make sure that everything's loaded up and ready to go here for the report. The perks of watching it live anyway. All right, I think I'm good. Okay, so I'm going to open it up and then we will be off. And a 3, 2... Hey everybody, Josh Sertson of World Alternative Media here, and there's more news about Epstein, who, by the way, did not kill himself. And let's get to the news right off the bat here. As this article from Zero Hedge says, Clintons vacationed extensively at Epstein's New Mexico baby-making ranch, according to a report. And as the article goes into, the Clintons regularly stayed at Jeffrey Epstein's weird New Mexico ranch, where the deceased pedophile had grand plans to seed the human race with his DNA, according to his estate managers. His DNA, the Clintons' DNA, I mean, I can't even imagine creating anything worse than them, but if you can make them any more robotic and clone-like. Anyway, carrying on, it says Bill, Hillary, and even Chelsea visited the 10,000-acre estate almost every year after they left the White House, according to the Daily Mail. The former first family didn't stay at the property's main compound. However, they spent their time in a custom cowboy-themed village Epstein built a mile south of his mountaintop villa. I can already tell this video is going to be demonetized as hate speech. As it continues here, it says, the Clinton family bunked down in a special cowboy-themed village created by Epstein, which is a mile south of his own luxury mountaintop villa. They'd use one of the 2 guest houses, which look like they're straight out of the 19th century. Seen in exclusive Daily Mail TV images, the guest homes are next to other traditional Wild West-style buildings, such as an old schoolhouse and saloon bar. An American flag is raised high above the village, which is next door to Epstein's private airstrip, where he arrived on his private planes, including his infamous Lolita Express. This is all according to security expert Jared Kellogg, who was brought in by longstanding ranch manager Bryce Gordon to improve security and set up a camera system at the main house and cowboy village, according to the Daily Mail. As this article continues, the Clintons maintained that they had minimal contact with Epstein, despite records proving he flew on the disgraced financier's Lolita Express Boeing 727-200 no fewer than 27 times, which Epstein sold 1 week before his July arrest on suspicion of sex trafficking minors. And there's reports that possibly, I remember reporting on this back in the 2015 and during the 2016 elections, that there was reports that there were cameras on the plane recording everything. And we'll update that in a moment as we've heard new reports regarding Prince Andrew. Anyway, as it continues, according to Kellogg, ranch manager Bryce Gordon kept bragging about the Clintons staying at the ranch. One of several of Epstein's homes where underage girls were reportedly trafficked from all over the world. And I quote, my contact was Bryce. Their main concern was that there was no video surveillance on the property at all. I thought this was a simple request, as they wanted surveillance to protect their investments. It's a huge site, said Kellogg. But what was weird was that the whole time I was on site, Bryce would be bragging about how the Clintons would visit the whole family, not just Bill, but Bill, his wife, their kids, and they would stay on the ranch itself. He had built this Western replica village with a saloon, barn houses, old schoolhouse, and when you're walking through it, it feels like you're walking through the 1800s. I'm really creeped out, by the way, about the whole schoolhouse thing. I can only imagine what happened in there. As it continues, and I quote, his biggest concern was monitoring and covering that area, so my main focus was mounting cameras on poles to cover the driveways, walkways, the ins and outs of each house and facilities. The Mail cites Kellogg as adding, it was like Westworld. It's like they built a functioning movie set. They put a lot of thought and detail into it, the flooring and facilities in there. I was staying, as it says, saying how cool the replica houses were. They're pretty neat, like the 1800s, he said. Yeah, they're built for guests. We get a lot of visitors. It's really cool. The Clintons come out here and hang out with Epstein. It sounded like a normal summer vacation, said Mr. Kellogg. As the Mail notes, Epstein had a picture of Bill Clinton in a blue dress hanging in his Upper East Side townhouse. A strange parody of former of former the infamous cum stained dress Monica Lewinsky wore and kept as revealed by the Drudge Report, though there is evidence that that dress was actually modeled after a dress that Hillary Clinton wore at gatherings. Anyway, Kellogg says he was stopped from going into certain areas of Epstein's New Mexico estate, but briefly explored its underground sections. In November, a former contractor told the Mail that Epstein had built a secret basement strip club. My access was very controlled during the site walk. It was dictated where I could and couldn't go. There were certain facilities I wasn't allowed to go in, which was odd as they were boarded up, and they looked like they could have big parties in them, but I didn't think much of it. And as it continues, it says, they wanted to put very, very limited camera coverage on the main house itself. I was going to put a couple of cameras on the exterior of the main entrance. And I quote, at the main entrance, there's a downward slope at the back that goes into the basement. I was able to briefly go in. There was a long hallway to a big foyer, and there was a door, and that was about it. The two guest houses I was not permitted to go into, Kellogg said. Due to security reasons, I wasn't permitted to even put a camera location on the drawing that we could then have on our records. What is odd is that as a security professional, for me to give the best protection I can give to a customer, I need the full layout of the land. I need to see the nooks and crannies, all the blind spots. They were limited. They were limited that access. The staff only lived in one house, as far as I was aware, which is the one nearest to the main gate. The saloon bar is in the center of the village. There's a bar area and looks like where they'd throw parties from my own observations. There's also a barn, hay storage, and they put tractors and other vehicles in it. Considering Epstein was a multi-millionaire, Kellogg said Gordon wanted to do the security on the cheap. Instead of using an expensive, robust camera system which used underground cables, he wanted a point-to-point wireless fluid mesh design, which means cameras are operating via antenna and is considerably cheaper, said the Daily Mail. What was odd to me was that I wasn't able to interact with Epstein. If it's your house, you have concerns. The task had been delegated to Bryce. He seemed to be in charge of everything. Maybe it would have been different if Bryce was a 14-year-old girl. Ooh. That's a way to end the article. I want to note first, before we get into any other stuff here, that it makes sense if he was an agent of Mossad or the CIA or something, gathering blackmail evidence against people and using that to buy politicians or push them to do certain things, etc. Because obviously using pedophilia against a lot of them, that's obviously one way to really make things happen. And of course, they infiltrated the Buckingham Palace with Prince Andrew, and then the White House and Britain and law offices, and I mean, we could go on. Businesses, banks, Hollywood. It just gets so extensive, guys. But that tells me with this Bryce guy in charge, it makes me speculate on possibly that being the case. He was just a government agent, and he had people on it. It wasn't really his place. He had other people figuring it out. I do want to note that look what happens when you type in Bill Clinton Epstein on Google. So, yeah, you do have a picture here of him with Epstein's ex-housekeepers and everything. But mostly you just find pictures of him with Donald Trump, of Epstein with Donald Trump. And it's strange, to say the least. Okay, you got him with the Bill Clinton and stuff here, too. But I just find it rather strange that, they want to make this so political. I think if you're making this political, you're pretty sick in the head, because we're talking about a massive child rape ring, and you should be focused on the children and investigating non-bias, without confirmation bias, regardless of your political views or apolitical views or whatever it might be. You want to be looking into the issue at hand, not looking for ways to confirm your bias by, like, you type in Bill Clinton. There's pictures of Bill Clinton with Epstein, but they're surprisingly hard to find if you use Google. So you can make of that what you will, but it stands out. It's something that I think people should keep in mind. And that brings me to my next point. As this article says, investigative journalist, why is Bill Clinton escaping scrutiny in Jeffrey Epstein case? I mean, Bill Clinton has way more rape accusations made against him. And of course, we interviewed Juanita Broderick here at WAM before. And I think it just seems crazy to me that there isn't more scrutiny of Bill Clinton himself. I mean, you see stuff coming out about Prince Andrew, and rightly so, but I just don't understand why, with all of the momentum, all of the people who are against Bill Clinton for, all the years, 40 years of rape accusations and molestation and abuse, and then Hillary Clinton covering it up, and going after the women and trying to get people like Monica Lewinsky put in, a mental asylum. It says a lot that the media is so determined not to have this come down on Bill Clinton at all. What does he know? What is there some kind of kill switch that people are worried about? What's going on? I mean, it's just so completely absurd. And I mean, I just saw today Hillary Clinton on Howard Stern, and it's such a ridiculous interview. And he just talks about her love life. Covering up her husband's rape and, smoking crack. I don't know. Well, anyway, we'll get to this article here. As it says, investigative journalist, why is Bill Clinton escaping scrutiny in Jeffrey Epstein case? And as it says, following a bombshell interview in which Virginia Roberts Giuffre claimed she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein and forced to have sex with Prince Andrew, an investigative reporter is asking why former President Bill Clinton is not being discussed. On the story, New York Post writer Maureen Callahan claimed it's odd that Andrew is the most notable person to become embroiled in the alleged scandal so far. And I should mention, after ABC Disney covered up the pedophile ring for years and took orders from Buckingham Palace, as well as the Clintons, to stop it, you heard in the Project Veritas leak that woman, Robach, at ABC, said that it was both Buckingham Palace and the Clintons. And what happened immediately, Andrew started going down and got fired from his own family, which is kind of hilarious. But with that said, I mean, what about Clinton? Why are people so dead set on not doing anything about this? The whole Me Too movement, yes, some people came out against Clinton and Biden and stuff like that. The kitty sniffer. But at the same time, it didn't really explode in the way that it did with so many other people at much lesser cases. And of course, Epstein hosted Bill Clinton on his Lolita Express 27 times, where Bill Clinton ditched Secret Service at least 12 times, at least. And he was saying he didn't have any contact with Jeffrey Epstein, but yet he's at his house regularly. I mean, when will people start picking this up and going, okay, time to throw Bill Clinton under the bus and stop covering this stuff up? What kind of soulless, sick individuals are in the mainstream media that are seeing these stories coming through and can sleep at night by covering it up? And it's being covered up. As I will continue here, Epstein, as it said here, boasted to teen model that Bill Clinton was his best friend, according to the suit. And we saw in other, articles that went far more viral that Bill Epstein boasted about having such close connections to Prince Andrew. That went all over the news, and rightly so. But why isn't this stuff about Bill Clinton hitting the news as much as it should? I mean, people know about it, but I mean, what's that guy's name again? That author that did that book on Bill Clinton. I totally forget his name. No, he didn't do a book on Bill Clinton. He did a book on Epstein. It was all about how Epstein was involved in all of these pedophile rings. It's just over the top crazy. But then right after that, the guy ended up James Patterson did that book on Epstein, then ended up doing a joint book with Bill Clinton right after that. I mean, what is wrong with these people? It's just so absurd. Did he read his own book? Carrying on, it says, there's this article that I noticed a few days ago that I thought was interesting. Epstein tapes sorted case takes a bizarre turn after mystery hacker emerges, and there's evidence that someone got a whole bunch of Epstein's servers and storage, and that they're going to release it. Going by the pseudonym Patrick Kessler, it says, self-described hacker said he had thousands of hours of footage from hidden cameras from Epstein's multiple properties, which included former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, lawyer Alan Dershowitz, and Prince Andrew, along with 3 billionaires and a prominent CEO, according to the Times. Now, there's evidence, of course, that he was doing a international, as it mentions here, international blackmail operation. Epstein was working for either Israel or the United States or some government somewhere in the world, and it was really over the... I mean, one of his alleged handlers came out about this recently, too, and said the same. So if he's gathering all this footage, we hear that he wanted cameras all over the estate in New Mexico. There's evidence that recently came out that Prince Andrew was caught on tape going after girls at Epstein's Manhattan mansion. And then at the same time, there was evidence back in 2016 on old articles about how Epstein had cameras on his plane, the Lolita Express, which recorded a lot of the guests, doing things with children, and then they were going to use that against them in order to make them do whatever they want. It goes really deep, folks. I'm pretty sure either he definitely didn't kill himself, and everyone realized, and that's so out in the open, but I definitely think he either is still alive somewhere on a beach sipping pina coladas, or he was murdered to keep himself quiet. If he was still alive, he used a dead man switch. It's debatable, it's speculation, but one thing's for sure, he did not kill himself. Come on, even people are getting indicted from the prison, and then Ghislaine Maxwell claims that she's going to speak out and come forward with a bunch of information. We've been waiting on that. Nothing much has come out about it, but apparently she's talking with Prince Andrew every single day. But this brings me to another case that, again, goes back to not being politically biased. I mean, Donald Trump knew Ghislaine Maxwell really well. He knew Epstein really well. And he also lied about knowing Prince Andrew, claimed he didn't know who Prince Andrew was. Prince Andrew has been his royal escort in Britain. Even recently, he's met him on dozens of occasions, and there's countless examples of it. And I think it's really worth looking into. Now, obviously, there's a lot more evidence against Bill Clinton, but to allow this to become a issue of political bias is disgusting. Whether you like him politically or not has nothing to do with being non-biased and looking into this from an investigative standpoint of who is involved with these sick, disgusting people on this ring and what he might have had against Donald Trump, if anything. I don't know. One thing is for sure, though, we shouldn't pass it off for political reasons. I'm seeing all these people just speculate on Bill Clinton, and rightly so, because there's a lot of evidence, but then at the same time, they're like, well, you weren't there, so you didn't see what happened between Trump and Epstein. And it's like, right, I didn't. I also wasn't there to see what happened between Bill Clinton and Epstein. Now, while it's more believable that Bill Clinton was doing all this stuff, to just pass it off with Donald Trump, hypocritically, ironically, really, to say that, well, I wasn't there, is just political bias, and we're talking about children's lives involved. Rape, pedophile rings. And it's bad enough that we're dealing with these entities covering up like ABC News, and here's a picture, by the way, from the same party with Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell. Of course, Ghislaine Maxwell was the socialite who very likely was involved in getting women for Epstein and passing them on over to people like Andrew and possibly Dershowitz and all these other people. It just seems it's so absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, I want to get to the point here. There's a lot of evidence on all sides here, and there's a lot of evidence that Epstein was actually an agent. And with that said, this goes to the heart of how sick the establishment is, and most of all, how sick the media is and how much they cover up for things that they don't think would benefit the greater good of the greater number for the political establishment and the elites and the banking establishment, etc. If this kind of stuff came out. I also think they're totally satanic, but with that said, I think this says more than anything that we need to break free from the media cover-up that's being pushed to the forefront, even here on YouTube. Like, for example, I got a note. Jimmy Savile, for decades, raped hundreds and hundreds of kids, possibly the biggest child rapist of all time. Buckingham Palace knew about it. The BBC knew about it. They covered it up for decades, for 4 to 5 decades, and he was good friends with Prince Charles. Why hasn't that come out, king to be? It's so crazy. This cult is involved in these horrible, horrifying things, and the media covers it up. And at the same time, you have ABC, Disney covering up for Epstein as well, and we saw that with the recent leaks, and God forbid you actually think others aren't involved in this. I guarantee you they are. I guarantee you countless medias are, and I'm so incredibly sick of it. I'm sick of people falling on their knees and just taking everything for granted from these medias. And this is one of the things. They're dying. These medias that cover up pedophilia have the balls to go after people from a moral standpoint and say that they're not reporting the news right or it's misinfo or all that kind of stuff. They're literally covering up for child rapists. and people moved to YouTube. And now YouTube is being taken over by mainstream media. And people are vastly, generally speaking, doing very little. So you guys need to pledge to us or other independent medias. It doesn't matter. Just help out the independent media. Share it if you don't have money and like it. And just do whatever you can, because we are getting shadow banned. We're getting taken down. On December 10th, they're coming in saying that they're regarding COPPA legislation to protect kids, which, oh yeah, they really care about kids. They're coming in with this legislation. It's already existed, but YouTube's going to crack down with it. And on December 10th, they change their terms of services. And if you say that your videos are for children, then it'll be demonetized and won't be suggested to people, where 72% of all video views come from. If you say it isn't for children, then they can arbitrarily just decide, well, technically a kid could watch this, so therefore we're going to fine you $42,000 a video. All while deleting videos like Dan Dix from Press for Truth. He posted a video against how terrible pedophilia was, and they took it down for being inappropriate. And then also they demonetize us 90% since January, cut us down in views 80% since January, but cut us down 90% in monetization, and they say our videos are not advertiser friendly and are hate speech, yet they demonetize us and they put the ads on the screen anyways, and then take all the money for themselves. I mean, it's just so insane. These people are out in the open. They are scared, and they're desperately just trying to regain their power, but the people aren't on their side. The people aren't on the side of Buckingham Palace. The people aren't on the side of the state. The people aren't on the side of pedophiles, thank God, even though there is a growing movement to promote pedophilia and degeneracy and all that kind of stuff. And you know, there is a growing movement against, people aren't buying what the media tells them. They haven't for years. That's why it's been dying so terribly. There was a time when people actually watched mainstream media and it would get huge viewership, and then everyone flooded to independent medias and they freaked out, and the dialogue was changing. You know, we weren't able to go to war because the independent media combated the nonsense over Syrian false flags, etc. And which recently came out, by the way, where they admitted there was no evidence that Assad actually gassed his own people, and it was all just a way to glorify going into war. All this stuff that comes out eventually, the independent medias were right about, and if we don't save independent media now, these people are who are going to be taking over. These people that cover up for pedophilia, rape of children, and cover up for the massive establishmentarianist, elite that are trying to force us onto our knees, make us weak, stupid, and dependent. We need to break free, folks. But anyway, we will continuously cover this issue. Check the links below. Until next time, this is Josh Searson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, guys, back to the live chat. Anyway, we're doing some more news stories right away. If I don't use all of my energy. Super chats go to the top. I really appreciate anyone that can help us out in any way. And we got Patreon subscribe star, $5 and up a month gives you subscriber only content. We really do appreciate it. We still need to raise, I think, $1,205 in monthly pledges by January 1st. It's the only way that WAM is gonna stay alive. But anyway, GoFundMe, Patreon, as well as, by the way, I should mention, here's our Bitcoin address. This is Bitcoin. Any tips are very, very, very much appreciated. Velvet Thunder, I think he was probably Mossad, but he could have been CIA too, but it all plays into the same thing anyway. And then we also have Digibyte. This is our Digibyte address, our QR. We appreciate anything you can do to help us out in any way. It makes a huge difference, folks. So anyway, we're going to get into some more news right away. So that part concludes this part of our video as our beautiful thumbnail of the day. Anyway, let's see. What should I do a video on next? For those that are just joining us, make sure to press like, by the way. It helps us out with the algorithm, whatever is left of... anyway. But for those that are just tuning in, what we do is we tell the news live in a report style, and then we cut it out and post them as separate videos later on. But we close it off. Don't go anywhere after I close off the reports. I'm still going to be here taking questions, etc. So I do want to note we are on float.app, flote.app, and we are currently streaming live on Float. I'm going to bring this up for everyone to see. flote.app. It's the greatest, seriously, it's the greatest new social media, and it's replacing all these other entities that are completely BSing us. I want to see what people are saying here. I don't know when some of these comments are from as of yet, but let's see. Oh, no one's commented on it yet. But for those interested, we are streaming on float.app, and the retention and viewership on Float, technically, it's way better than Facebook, which I have 10 times the viewership on. So go over to float.app if you want. We take super chats there as well. Anyway, again, we are on BitChute as well. Let's see, 580 subscribers, up to 581. At least we got one new one during the stream. Then we got Patreon, and of course we got Subscribestar, and of course we have GoFundMe, which, by the way, was started on June 2nd, 2015. So almost 5 years have gone by. So don't freak out about that number. That wasn't off from one day. That's from almost 5 years. Definitely don't have that money today. But anyway, back to the news. We've lost about 30% of our viewership since I stopped that last video. So let's get on it. Trying to figure out the best video to do here. I think I got one. Let's go to the economy for a minute. And send in those super chats if you want me to answer your questions. It's hard to keep up with all of them. I'm going to try anyway, but don't go anywhere after I'm finished this report, because I'm going to still be taking your questions. Anyway, let's get to this video. You get to watch me screw up live. It's always a good time. And let's get to it. And a 3, 2... Hey everybody, Josh Sturtson of World Alternative Media here, and lots of news with the economy lately. I want to get to this article regarding gold, which, as a Zero Hedge article says, gold has outperformed the stock market over the last year. Well, duh. I mean, so this tells you that no matter how much you see the stock market propped up, pushed to the brink with fake money that's flowing into the markets as the Fed prints ridiculous amounts of money and creates a even further artificial stock market, which has been artificial for a long time, but they're really going all out right now. All-time highs. That's a bubble. And a lot of people are, especially institutional investors, are noticing that, taking notice and getting into gold. And we've seen that as well with, for example, private ownership, which is skyrocketing lately, and I think it's almost 50-50 for the first time in a very long time anyway. But as this article goes into, and I'll get back into it a bit more in a moment, as the article goes into, for more than a year, I've been strongly encouraging readers to consider buying gold, says author Simon Black of SovereignMan.com. In fact, almost exactly 1 year ago to the day, I wrote that gold was cheap relative to just about every other asset class in the world. Since then, gold has been one of the best performing investments in the world, well, certainly over the last month. Otherwise, before that, it was one of the worst performing ones, to be honest. But that was because of vast market manipulation. Anyway, as the article continues, over the last 12 months, the price of gold is up 18.8%, handily outperforming everything from the S&P 500 index in the US to stock markets in China, Europe, and Canada, plus bonds, real estate, and even major commodities like oil. And you can see the chart there. Continuing on, it says, gold has even outpaced the stock prices many of the world's most popular tech investments like Netflix, Tesla, Amazon, etc. One of the more interesting exceptions has been Bitcoin, which has more than doubled in value over the last 12 months. We'll talk about that another time. But while gold's investment performance has been great, I want to tell you today why that doesn't matter one bit to me. According to data published by the World Gold Council, in the last quarter alone, both retail investors and a number of large hedge funds have been piling into gold. That's certainly been one factor driving prices higher, but to be frank, that sort of demand is extremely fickle, and there's no doubt. I mean, we're seeing, they'd be stupid not to. George Soros got to put a ton of his money into gold. It's just a lot of these master manipulators are going to try and back themselves up because they know that their wealth is doomed if they do not. Carrying on, it says, the WGC data show that most small investors are buying into gold ETFs, which, as I've explained previously, is probably the dumbest way to own gold. Absolutely, no question about it. Paper gold? Come on, why wouldn't you just own the gold? As it continues, gold ETF buyers are not long-term investors. They'll most likely sell the minute gold prices start to fall. Hedge fund managers won't hesitate to sell either, especially if they need to boost their quarterly returns. So long-term gold prices won't be driven higher by fickle investor demand. The real demand that's worth watching comes from foreign governments and central banks, institutions with such a heavy appetite that they buy gold by the metric ton. In the third quarter of this year, Turkey bought 71 metric tons of gold. Serbia bought 9 metric tons of gold in the month of October alone. Poland doubled its reserves last year, and China has been gobbling up not only gold, but gold miners too. You see that in Africa too, but that's their IMF agenda. Anyway, as it carries on here, it says, it's critical to understand that foreign governments and central banks tend to be buyers of gold. They're rarely sellers. In fact, up until very recently, there was even an agreement among some of the world's largest central banks to not sell their gold in order to ensure price stability. And according to freshly minted international banking regulations, gold is now considered to be a zero-risk asset for central banks and large financial institutions. This is important because a number of central banks and foreign governments are really looking for alternatives to diversify away from the US dollar. Absolutely, there's a lot of faith lost in the US dollar, and that's the only thing keeping it up. And it's crazy because there's a lot of swapping, even Saudi Arabia to a degree, and we see China in a coalition with Russia, Iran, Syria, even the Philippines to an extent. As it carries on here, as it says, right now, the US dollar is still the world's most popular reserve asset, meaning that just about every foreign government, central bank, and large commercial bank on the planet holds US dollars. China alone has trillions of US dollars in reserves. Absolutely, they're still banking on it 100%. But for the past 20 years or so, the US government has increasingly used its currency, economy, and financial system as a weapon to threaten foreign countries. If you cross the U.S. government, you're threatened with sanctions, tariffs, and all sorts of financial penalties. And I'll break away for a second and say there's more than that. Ask Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein. I'm not saying they're good people, but I mean, that's how you end up assassinated and your country overthrown in a coup propped up by the West with Western-funded rebels that turn into ISIS. Anyway, as it continues, think about it. With so many problems and disputes looming, why would a country like China continue accumulating U.S. dollar reserves? It doesn't make any sense. And that's why so many countries are starting to stockpile gold instead. It's the best alternative to U.S. dollars, and they're buying up as much as they can. These foreign governments and central banks do tend to report their gold purchases, but it would be remarkably naive for us to assume they've given us a full story. Absolutely. Though, by the way, Canada sold off all of its gold a couple years ago, and I confronted Canadian Finance Minister Bill Morneau on that back in 2016, where he said that gold didn't really hold any value. And I'm like, well, tell the consumers that. Anyway, as it continues here, it says, why would China willingly tell the world precisely how much gold they're accumulating? There is absolutely no benefit for them to be transparent, so the real numbers could be far, far greater than what the official statistics say. This is ultimately what's going to keep driving long-term gold demand. And as it continues here, individual investors and even big hedge funds will come and go, but foreign governments and central banks are very likely to continue hedging against the dollar, and gold is literally the only sensible alternative right now. This is definitely going to have a positive impact on the gold price, but it doesn't guarantee higher gold prices over the next year or two. Roughly half of all gold demand comes from industry, primarily tech, manufacturing, and jewelry. And both of these will take a big hit in the next global recession, which could cause the gold price to fall. And that's the point I want to convey today. Yes, it's possible to make money with gold, but frankly, there are far more lucrative potential speculations out there, including gold miners. If you bought gold today and the price soared to $3,000, you'd double your money. But if you bought shares in a gold exploration company that discovers a huge gold deposit, your shares could increase in value by 2,000%. Of course, yeah, but that's more risk, man. As it continues here in bold, it says the decision to own gold should never be about the investment gain. Gold is a hedge against uncertainties and risks, and there are a lot of those in the world. True enough. I mean, it shouldn't be an investment, and we'll get back into that in a moment. As it continues, it says, we gladly buy insurance policies to protect our homes, cars, boats, and businesses against various risks. Plus, we buy life insurance, liability insurance, and disability insurance to protect our families against the unknowns. This is a great way to think about gold. It's like a private, fully redeemable insurance policy with steady cash value and zero counterparty risk. And when combined with a properly structured retirement plan, it can be very tax efficient. So I want to get into this a bit with all of you guys here. First of all, finishing that article off there, he's saying something that's definitely true, that gold is wealth insurance. It's not meant as an investment. You can invest in ETFs and all that kind of stuff, paper contracts and derivatives and all that kind of stuff. But it's not really right. When the stock markets go down, I actually don't think gold is going to go down when the stock markets go down. We might see a temporary dip. But overall, we're going to see a lot of people trying to cushion the blow as much as possible because they're not going to be holding U.S. dollars under their mattress, constantly turning into Zimbabwean notes or Venezuelan notes or Weimar notes. They're going to be compiling gold and silver probably and cryptocurrency as a hedge. And I think that goes without saying. Now, I want to note that for years, especially since 2012, we've seen vast gold manipulation, but going back even further, when FDR took the gold in the early 1930s, much of that gold was used to fund the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which still to this day manipulates gold. The rest of it being used to fund the IMF. Of course, our friend Anthony Blanchard, his father got gold back into the hands of the people in the 1970s, right in time for the gold standard to end. But I do want to add that we've seen that manipulation, especially since 2012 when we saw a bull market coming in. And of course, they were trying to paper over the recession, which we're still in, by the way, trying to paper it over as much as they can out of fear that they were going to, see everyone flood into gold and ditch the US dollar. At the time, Bitcoin wasn't as prevalent, though it definitely did well in the crisis following into 2012 and forward. But I felt that basically it was these big banks that were pumping and dumping and manipulating the price of gold, spoofing the markets. We saw that with Deutsche Bank, HSBC, PNB Paribas, and all sorts of different banks, Scotiabank, and they got caught red-handed in court, and then Deutsche Bank took the fall. And obviously, Deutsche Bank has been in a tailspin since 2008, so they haven't been doing too well themselves, but it's been a very spoof market, gold and silver, and I think it's very manipulated. But when the banks go down, it's kind of like holding a beach ball underwater and then letting that beach ball go, and that beach ball is going to bounce up. Now, we're going to see, obviously, great fluctuation in the wealth insurance. That's going to result in probably gold falling off a cliff for a small amount of time, leading into the uncertainty, and then we're going to see some revival down the line. But again, this wasn't ever about wealth or investments. It was about wealth insurance, about holding gold and silver in order to hedge yourself against the coming crises. But I do want to also note that the value of gold comes from the scarcity, application, use, and demand. So from scarcity, there's not a lot of it, and it's in demand. So at the same time, you have that demand, but it's also used in electronics, and it's also held as a precaution, and it's utilized in jewelry and all sorts of stuff. The jewelry industry isn't going to be doing super great in the fall of an economy, but we're still going to see a lot of electronics in this hyper electronic world, and also we're going to see it utilized in a lot of gear, and people are going to be piling it up, and we're seeing private ownership skyrocketing, as I mentioned. At the same time, we're going to see people utilizing cryptocurrencies, obviously, as anyone would, because you can make transactions worldwide with cryptocurrency much easier than shaving off slices of gold and weighing it, though there are things like Anthem Gold and Hyatt Gold, etc., that allow you to shift gold from one place to another on the blockchain, etc. But nonetheless, I think that cryptocurrency is going to be decentralized, hopefully, not touched by the government, completely fundamentally useful cryptocurrencies and innovative technologies, blockchain infrastructure technology, all that kind of stuff is going to be utilized to the max. And again, based on scarcity, application, use, and demand. So I am looking forward to the solutions. I think there's more solutions than there are problems, but also I'm sick of seeing so many people get so taken advantage of. We're still seeing people lining up for subprime lending and all this craziness. And I have to say, it concerns me because it tells me that people haven't learned from the past. And people say, oh, you've been calling for the crash forever. And it's like, yeah, and I've been right forever. As I've said the whole time, it isn't about it happening tomorrow. You can't put a date on the collapse. It's been pushed off way longer than it should have already. It's just basic economics. Every fiat currency eventually reverts to zero. And if you're printing vast amounts to prop up the stock market on top of that, then you're going to see a massive bubble, and even the best company stocks are going to fall with the fall of the stock market. I mean, Amazon went down during the dot-com bubble as well, just like cryptocurrency went down during the crypto bubble, like Bitcoin versus all these, what coins, crap coins, I'll say. So I think that's important to note. Don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of. A populace in debt is a populace in servitude, and they shove people down a bottomless pit of debt, forcing them to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, pushing you into perfect servitude, and that's exactly where they want you, and you need to break free from that, folks. And again, people are going to say, well, you can't eat gold, you can't eat silver, you can't eat crypto. Of course you can, though. You can utilize it to buy things for food instead of becoming a savage. You're not going to be able to harvest things regularly because people have been made super dependent and stupid and weak over the years, generally speaking. I'm not saying all of you, but we've seen that ourselves. Millennial generation, boomer generation, etc. But also, we need to note that, it comes down to responsibility. So it's food, water, shelter, self-defense. You're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block. And the gold and silver are forms of wealth insurance, and cryptocurrency is a way to, spend money quick with the tap of a phone. And that kind of stuff. I think that's really important. Break free from the blockchain infrastructure that the banks are putting on the governments, like the cashless societies that are centrally planned via the banks, the banking system. So again, as I mentioned before, if your money's in the bank, it's not yours as the bank's. If your money's always going to the banks via digital transactions and legal tender laws, your money's never yours. It's always the bank's, and you are essentially a slave to the banking system. So be your own bank and break free from that. And a lot of cryptocurrencies provide solutions. Gold and silver provide solutions. Diversification provides solutions. And again, this is my opinion, not investment advice, and it wasn't ever meant to be investment in the first place. So anyway, I want people to keep all that in mind, and hedge themselves against what's coming, because it's going to happen. It's always has to. It's inevitable. You cannot put it off. It's been propped up so much that the more they prop it up, the more it's going to come down on people, and the more people are going to be affected. So be responsible, independent, and free. Anyway, stop being a slave, decentralize your life, and live by example. Live by your free intentions. Until next time, this is Josh Harrison signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, guys. What do we got next? My voice is starting to go already. Anyway, make sure to press like if you haven't already. Make sure to send super chats. Help us out any way you can. And again, big heads up about Patreon and Subscribestar. We need your pledges, folks. We need another $1,205 in monthly pledges by January 1st to survive as an independent media as YouTube takes us down. We need your help. Unfortunately, lately, every pledge we get, someone unpledges, and it's been killing us. Like, we are literally about to be taken down by YouTube. Let's see if we got any more people following us on BitChute. No one since the last time I mentioned it. All these are linked below, by the way. And float.app. Let's see who's watching us on float.app. Anybody? We got some viewers on Float. Good to see. No one's commenting. Make sure to comment if you are on float.app and want to ask any questions. So yeah, we're at Josh Searson as well as at WAM on float.app, and I'm going to start posting videos. By the way, I posted a video on my vlog on YouTube today that I'll be posting to Float as well soon. Let me bring that up quickly, youtube.com. And yeah, I just posted a video. If you are wondering, we do have another vlog channel that kind of goes into travel stuff a bit more. Little videos that I wouldn't post on WAM because it's not as much video report as it's like travel and stuff like that. We have so many videos piled up from our recent travels thanks to a donor who sent us to Turkey. So you could see, one moment here, put this up on the screen for y'all, and you could see our most recent video from today. It only has 13 views so far, 116 subscribers. Josh Sigurdsson on YouTube. Not that it's going to mean anything because YouTube's taking us all down, but anyway, we got random videos up on there as well, exploring ancient Venetian tunnels in the Palamidi Castle of Naftalio, Greece, as well as the sounds of Istanbul, Turkey. Anyway, let's get back to the chat on YouTube. Anyone saying anything? We got Float. Oh, yeah, says Ghost Rider. All right. Lynn Gordon says, see ya. Not going anywhere. Like I said, when we do these videos, we don't go anywhere. We open it and we close it off, and then we take them and put them up separately later on. The reason for that being I've been working on some projects that I shot in Turkey recently, and I don't have as much time to edit. So I edit live and take them out and put them up as our own videos later on. Thought Police says, are you on D Live? Honestly, I boycotted D Live when they took down a bunch of my videos and just deleted a bunch of stuff when they switched blockchains. It was super not cool. Richard, a stonemason, not a Freemason, says, yep. How's it going, Richard? Good to see ya. We got quite a few people joining us right now. Paula Johnstone, a White Hawk, DNM says, keep up the truthful sharing. I appreciate that very much. Thought Police says, if stock market crashes, gold and silver go up, just look back at 2008. Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of manipulation, but I definitely think that that's the case, and we're going to see a lot more of that in the coming reset. We're losing viewers here, so make sure to share and press like if you haven't already. YouTube doesn't allow us to reach people. We got 59 people watching out of 136,000 people. I realize a lot of people are at work, but we're worldwide and we have a lot of viewers all over the world. So it's just strange how few people are actually notified or told about our live streams. So anyway, I'll get into another story here. Just trying to figure out what to do next. I got a lot of stories loaded up at the top of my page here. By the way, I'm not going to do like a full report on it, but I can't go without noting this. Full service presidential candidate Yang raises eyebrows after dispensing whipped cream into mouth of eager voters. Like, the optics on this are exactly what I think when I think of government and people worshiping the state. He seems like a nice guy and everything, but it's still theft and fractional reserve lending craziness that would lead to that $1,000. It's theft and it's slavery, and these people are taking phallic whipped cream in their mouth on their knees for Yang, and it does not look good. It does not look good at all. Anyway, let's see what we got here. Sean Murphy says, watching from Edinburgh, hi WAM. Hi, good to see you. Home of the Duke of Edinburgh. Jim M says Wang is a socialist, period. Yeah, period. Totally. It's so weird to see so many libertarians support Tulsi and Yang. It's like every election, people just fall off the wagon for comfort. And it's so ridiculous. Ghost Rider says, you said phallic, YouTube's going to bust you. They've already busted me. I'm shadow banned. I'm only able to reach about 2% of subscribers. And on top of that, I'm only able to, I'm getting shadow banned. So instead of the 72% average for suggested video clicks on WAM, I get 1.2%. Because they don't suggest my videos to anyone else. And I've gone up in 3 subscribers in the last month on a channel with 136,000 subscribers. It's just so brutal. No matter how much I post, I could post 8 or 9 videos a day and no one's going to see it. It's so brutal. It's so frustrating because the harder I work, the more they crack down on me. And it's really hard because it's really hard to find people that are willing to pledge even $1 a month to keep independent media alive. So that's really disheartening. There's links in the comments or in the description, by the way, if you're interested. Anyway, let's get to some more news as we have a few more people tuning in because I think a few people shared it. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. Let's get to the next thing. Again, I'm winging all of these, so I hope you enjoy me failing miserably when I report on these things live. I got to pull up a link real quick for this next report so that I have it ready here. My computer's super hot right now. I got to pick it up for a second. It's burning up. That's what I need for this whole thing to go down because my computer's hot. All right. I'm going to pull this in here. And let's do another live report here. All right. Winnipeg Alternative Media says, hey, hello. Good to see you. Good to see you, Todd. Let's get this up and running. All right. Ready? Ready to watch me fail? Good times. Good times. Starting in 3, 2. Hey everybody, Josh Seartson of World Alternative Media here, and it's hard to have patience and a good heart in the crypto world, is it not? And we can see the latest crypto markets right here. Bitcoin at 7,261, down dramatically from earlier today. But, I mean, still up like more than 2.5 times since the beginning of the year. People freak out. It's a bear market, and there's a lot of market manipulation coming in from China, the U.S. government, elsewhere, Russia, etc. It's just crazy. But there's a hopeful story to be told here. But first, before I get into the hope and change and all that kind of stuff, let's get into this article out of Zero Hedge, which says, crypto suddenly panic bid. Bitcoin near 7,800, Ether tops $150. And as this article from today, by the way, from today, remember the price I just showed you. From today, it says catalysts as usual are unclear, but a sudden surge of buying has lifted cryptos across the board this morning, with Bitcoin testing 7,800. And you can see the calculations here and the charting here. Oh, man. This surge happens as Cointelegraph reports that Bitcoin futures open interest on a digital assets platform backed has hit a new all-time high. According to December 3rd Twitter post published on December 3rd by, they have to say December 3rd as many times as possible. It's a drinking game now. By Backed Volume Bot, a Twitter account dedicated to reporting backed trading volumes. Monday's open interest on backed Bitcoin futures reached a new all-time high of $6.5 million. In future markets, open interest is the number of open contracts in the market and is often used to indicate the health of the market. When there is a large amount of open interest, new or additional capital is flowing in. As it continues, the reported open interest is a 42% increase from the previous day, which was an all-time high as well. Last Friday and Saturday saw open interest records of $4.2 million and $4.3 million, respectively. The platform's trading volumes have been continuously breaking records since its launch in September. At the end of November, daily volumes on the platform hit a new all-time high of over $42.5 million, or 4,443 Bitcoin at the time. Also in November, Backed Chief Operating Officer Adam White announced the firm's move to include a cash-settled option in an apparent bid to further increase the platform's popularity among investors. The Intercontinental Exchange, Backed parent company, later confirmed the launch of the option for December 9th. Backed's management could also soon start influencing United States cryptocurrency regulation. As Cointelegraph reported on December 1st, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is expected to appoint Backed Chief Executive Officer Kelly Loeffler for United States Senate seat. But there's a lot more to this. This article that I'm about to go into here comes from, November 25th, but I've been holding on to it for a while because I think it's important to note. It's outdated, but it says a lot about what we're actually going to be expecting in the near future, as it says, no capitulation. Bitcoin miners completely unfazed by crypto collapse. And as this article says, Bitcoin is not seeing capitulation among miners despite the price dipping over 15% in the past week, new data suggests. As it continues, according to estimates of Bitcoin's hash rate from monitoring resource CoinDance, participation remains as strong now as before the price drop. Hash rate refers to the amount of computing power dedicated to maintaining the Bitcoin network. And then it says, according to some measures, the hash rate on November 23rd, in fact, nearly matched its previous all-time high, 134 quintillion hashes per second. Saturday's reading was almost identical to that from October 10th, CoinDance statistics suggest. Bitcoin USD traded at around $7,200 on that day compared to $8,600 in October, and you can see the chart there. Previously, Cointelegraph reported on the rising consensus that Bitcoin miners were exiting their positions as losses mounted. According to statistician Willy Woo, that's a great name, Willy Woo, that process had already almost completed as of this week. Taking an opposing position based on the fresh data, entrepreneur Alistair Milne suggested miners were in fact little concerned with current price action. There is no minor capitulation, he summarized in a tweet on Sunday. He continued, they are acutely aware of the upcoming halving and apparently unfazed by the recent dip. And absolutely, that's the core of the issue here. Difficulty reverses upwards, as it says. Milne is also linked to the rising rising difficulty in mining Bitcoin, an indicator which until recently had been in decline. The difficulty is a measure of the effort required to solve Bitcoin block equation and regularly adjusts to suit current miner sentiment. Earlier this month, difficulty saw its biggest drop of the year, falling 7%. Since then, a roughly 2% uptick likewise contradicts the idea that miners are staying away, according to blockchain figures. And you can see another chart there. Bitcoin, a source from Bitcoin mining difficulty. For analyst, Plan B creator of the highly popular stock-to-flow Bitcoin price model, difficulty trends also point to continued faith in mining profitability. Plus 2% difficulty adjustment, no minor capitulation, he wrote on Friday, adding the historical precedent called for a price rise after such behavior. According to Crypto, this real-time difficulty generator, the next adjustment on December 5th could be almost 5% higher than current levels. Unlike difficulty, the hash rate is difficult to estimate beyond a limited degree of accuracy and should not be taken as a definitive guide to miner involvement. Finally, this long-term perspective may be worth paying attention to, and you could see the tweet there, Plan B, some people panicking about this minus 17% week. It's just normal Bitcoin behavior. Note we are still up 2 times year to date. And yes, S2F model is just fine. Nothing out of the ordinary. But I do want to note that something that this article hit on that I think is important is the upcoming halving. As we've seen historically, the halving has led to good times, to say the least. And honestly, I have confidence in the widespread adoption overall. If it's not even Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, hopefully decentralized ones, are going to catch on. They're going to happen one way or another, whether it's the government enforcing their centrally planned cashless societies, or whether it's us on the free market building great alternatives and great computing entities that allow us to trade freely and hopefully privately and decentralized. I think that's incredibly important, and I think we will see that. We need to focus on the free market, though, and stop these people that are anti digital currency are freaking out, and they're going, oh no, we can't allow this, this is wrong, I'm going to boycott. You're boycotting the ones that are going up against those entities that are trying to develop the cashless systems that we see in China and India and elsewhere, in Australia and Sweden and Japan. Folks, it's important that we master this plan to overthrow the centralized forces that print vast amounts of currency out of thin air using fractional reserve lending, using usury under social contract and legal tender laws to enslave us. If your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's the bank's. If your money is always going through the banks via digital transactions and legal tender laws and usury, social contract usury that is, it's never your money, it's always a bank's, and you are enslaved to the banking system. So with all of these problems with cryptocurrency, we also have to look at who is manipulating that market. Remember when China said that they had some kind of respect and they were looking at cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and stuff like that? The market skyrocketed. The market skyrocketed 42% in one day. 42%! And obviously, as per usual, everyone bought it up at the top. That's the way people act these days. This is a hedge against a crisis, as was meant to be in the first place. But people don't look at it that way. They're trying to make money fast, and then they end up losing money because of it. And especially with all these altcoins, it's ridiculous. Which I like a lot of the altcoins, but there's a lot of terrible ones. Like 95% are bad. But then China then started another crackdown into cryptocurrencies that's heavily affecting the price right now. And I want to quickly bring an article up that I forgot to load up earlier, which I think is important to this report. I'm pulling up 2 articles actually, and I'm going to go into them to the best of my ability right here off the cuff. But essentially, China has been cracking down on Bitcoin, despite saying that Bitcoin was good. Similarly, like they have in the past, they pump it and then they dump it. They buy up cheap and then sell off at the top, and that's where we're seeing vast amounts of money pouring out of the market. It's obviously manipulation like we see in gold and silver for years, with Deutsche Bank spoofing markets, etc., along many other banks, of course, JP Morgan, BNP Paribas, etc. They actually went to court over that and got fined a massive amount of money. But we also saw that in India, when I believe it was like the Minister of Foreign Affairs or something like that. It had nothing to do with finance necessarily. I mean, war is a racket, but Anyway, about 2 years ago, mentioned that they were thinking of banning Bitcoin, and the price dropped like a rock. And then the finance minister said, no, we're not planning that. And it skyrocketed. It was pretty obvious that they sold off high, they bought low, and then they sold off high again, just making a bunch of money off of it. And China has been known to do similar things. And in fact, in their first crackdown effort, people started buying cryptocurrency at a greater rate, which is interesting because that's the same thing that happens in the United States when they try to crack down on guns. People buy more guns. Let's get to this article quickly here. I'm not going to go into much of it, but I just wanted to note China's official virtual currency could be arriving quite soon to challenge the U.S. And China obviously is creating a technocratic police state, nanny state grid with sesame credit and with artificial intelligence and with police with goggles that have facial recognition on it, showing the credit scores. People criticize the government online and they end up going to, they get... Have you seen, actually, I need to bring this up, and I'll go into that more in a moment, but people criticize the government, and what happens next is they end up in a chair in some Chinese prison, and I posted it the other day on Twitter, and I'm going to bring it up for you guys right now. This is what happens when you interrogate or when you say something mean about the police online. You're put in a chair, restrained, and forced to apologize. They're essentially tortured. This is what we're seeing. Imagine what we're not seeing. It's sick, and these people are influencing the world, and they're taking over the world. They're set to take over for the U.S. in the coming years. Same with India, and they're creating the cashless society. India testing it with taking away a lot of the gold, demonetizing a lot of their currency, and enforcing cashless on a populace that loves gold and cash. Which isn't working too well. But in China, you criticize the government, your social credit score goes down. You can't eat at restaurants. If you go on a plane, they have a high-pitched beep that goes in your ear, drives you crazy, makes you have a headache, makes you feel sick. They are torturing people, imprisoning people, censoring things. This is the most populous country in the world. Are we not just a little bit concerned, especially since this has been going on for a long time? I mean, going back to Henry Kissinger meeting with Mao Zedong and creating an alliance with China against Nixon's wishes, going into Zbigniew Brzezinski meeting in China and creating the Trilateral Commission in the late 70s under Carter, leading to this huge trade move over to China. And it's all by, script, folks. They raise wages, they push taxes on small business. They do all this stuff that forces people to go overseas for a cheaper price because that's what a business has to do to survive and pay its employees. And now they're unrolling the smart city grids in Australia. They're demonetizing there. They're demonetizing in places like Japan where they went into negative interest rates. Negative interest rates are about to be seen worldwide. It's terrifying, and they want to create this huge control grid where everyone is controlled by the government, everyone's in fear, and everyone's just a complete slave because debt creates dependency. And if you create a nation of debt slaves, you create a nation that's super subservient and in fear. If you shove someone down a bottomless pit of debt, you're forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, pushing you into perfect servitude to them, right where they want you. So this is why I say that we need to break free from that complex and compete on the market and create ways now, sooner than later, to create an environment where we can trade freely, privately, and not be extorted completely, not be arrested, not be tracked everywhere. And Bitcoin is traceable, so that means stepping it up from there into the privacy-oriented aspects of cryptocurrency, decentralized, of course, and building infrastructure against this cashless society. Because the future is digital, one way or another. The future is digital. It's how we utilize the digital technology to our benefit, and not to the government's benefit. It's extremely, excruciatingly important to avoid the slavery of mankind. And we don't want to be in a Logan's Run type society. We need to look at value as subjective, based on scarcity, application, use, and demand. Scarcity being not a lot of it, demand being that people want it, and utilization, the use of the use case for these things. And for example, with gold and electronics and in jewelry and piling gold in a closet or in the ground or in a safe or wherever it might be. With cryptocurrency, it's utilizing it for international transactions that you can't exactly do easily with gold, and being able to get around the grid, technically speaking, get around these Chinese-style censorship grids, and create infrastructures that can get around things like YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Twitch and Tumblr and Reddit and Patreon, like Float.app is doing, FLOTE.app. We need to develop this. We need to innovate, and with innovation comes prosperity, not bending over backwards for the state to use us as pawns to sacrifice for the king and the queen. That's why I go into the tyranny so much, because again, if your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's a bank's. We can't allow these people to be able to track us everywhere, track every transaction, not allow us to eat places, not allow us to go and leave the country, for example. At the same time, facial recognition everywhere compared with social credit scores, which Facebook, I believe, is developing in their own right. I believe that Facebook went to China developing AI in order to create a sovereign national Facebook digital entity that's based on artificial technology, creating social credit scores, et cetera, as well. And that's definitely coming up down the line as well. We need to break free from the slave racket that we've all been forced to accept so willingly and stupidly. Tyranny comes under the guise of convenience, so we need to create convenient alternatives that the vast majority won't necessarily ideologically understand, but will adopt because it's convenient and it's an easy thing to do. Because generally speaking, people are lazy. So we need to create those alternatives before we end up with bank runs, for example, or bail-ins that we can't do anything about. We can't do a bank run. The bail-in regimes come in, they take money out of our bank account. They only promise us 3% at the most back in overall amount of money they stole from us. They could tax us to death straight out of our bank accounts, all that kind of stuff. And it's extraordinarily dangerous for the future of mankind. So we need to keep that in mind. We need to break free and live free, or forever hold our peace and die by the sword of the state. Anyway, I appreciate everyone tuning in today. And until next time, this is Josh Harrison signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. All right, that went a little bit longer than I expected. Weak Sauce says, you're doing God's work, Josh. Thank you very much. We have two people that are have given super chats since I did that report. A big shout out to Bitcoin Ben, who, by the way, has an awesome channel that you should all subscribe to. Bitcoin Ben sent $4.99. It says, thanks, brother, for all your hard work. Try not to get poisoned again. I'll try not to. Thank you very much, man. I really, truly appreciate that. That's awesome. You're awesome. Keep up the heroic work. Martin Tierney sent Australian $10. Appreciate all your work, brother. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Awesome. Really appreciate it. You guys are seriously keeping WAM alive. It's the only thing that's keeping WAM alive right now, because we're heavily demonetized. We've been cut down, shadow banned about 80% since January of this year, and financially 90%. So it's brutal. We have 59 people watching out of 136,000 people. What does that tell you? And I've been stuck at 136,000 subscribers, going up barely any in a month. It's absurd. No matter how hard I work, the harder I work, the more they just not allow people to see my videos. They suggest the content to 2% tops. And of those 2%, the amount of people who actually click it, I mean, it's crazy. We went from 72% of all of our views here at WAM were from suggested videos. Now it's 1.2%. What does that tell you? Sad. We need your help, though, guys. So, again, go to float.app. I'll put it up here on the screen again. FLOTE.app, where we do... Oh, that's a great image there. Where we do post more than we do on other entities, other social media. So make sure to join me at Josh Searson there. I'll open up my profile here on Float. We have 1,307 followers. Make sure to come and follow me. And let's see what happened on BitChute since the last time I mentioned it. 581 to 581. So still, no one watching this has gone and subscribed to my BitChute in the last 30 minutes since I last mentioned it. Brutal. This is why we can't have nice things, guys. It takes 2 seconds. Click, button, hit button. Really not that difficult. With this now... Look, we need to raise another $1,205 in monthly pledges by January 1st in order to stay alive as a media. If you can, great. If you can't, great. Whatever. But $1 or more a month, seriously, guys, it really helps. It's what's going to stop us from going under. It looks like I got a $1 pledge since last time I checked. Let me check my phone here. Thank you very much, John, for the $1 pledge. That puts us down to $1,204 we need to raise by January 1st. Thank you so much. If 10% of people did it, we'd be far and beyond what we need. Never mind 1%. I mean, 1% would be great. It's hard to get people motivated. So I thank you so much, John, for your motivation, for your heroism, for stepping up and going out of your way to do that. It means a lot. I really, truly appreciate it. And of course, we have Subscribestar as well, all linked below in the description. So really appreciate that, guys. Let's see what we got. GoFundMe. Nothing in a couple days, but I really appreciate everyone that's helped out in that as well. Again, float.app takes 2 seconds to sign up for float.app. flote.app. Really appreciate anything you guys can do. Anyway, back to y'all in the chat. Richard A. Stonemason, not a Freemason, says, "Don't worry, Josh. Some seeds fall on poor ground." Yeah, absolutely. Beyond Prey said, "Did not understand the Float app." I'll write it again. It's all linked below in the description. But float.app, flote.app. I'll put it in the chat there. And we're at Josh Sigurdsson as well as at WAM. So you can find us on there and follow us. That's where we'll be as we're being taken down on YouTube, which is going to be coming up inevitably very soon, considering the fact that YouTube is changing their terms of services right away, and it's going to be dramatically affecting our ability to reach people. As it is, it's already almost impossible. We reach almost nobody. And on top of that, they could be finding us $42,000 per video if they determine for some arbitrary reason, in their own personal opinion, that technically speaking a kid could watch a video. Then they'll pass this on to the government, and we're going to have the FTC finding us $42,000 a video, which I refuse to pay. And I'll say right now, I'd sooner leave the country and be on the run than pay $42,000. You guys can bite me. It's not going to happen. I really appreciate the good amount of Satoshis you just sent me there, D. Silva. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Really appreciate those donations. For those that are interested, I'll put it up on the screen here. We got our Bitcoin adders right there. Thanks again. I really appreciate the $15, man. It helps go a long way, and especially with Bitcoin, with the future, we can only hope for the best. We also have other cryptocurrencies, as you can see below. I believe I have Dash and Litecoin listed below. And we also have Digibyte. Here's our Digibyte address if you're interested. That's Digibyte. And anyway, back to my face. So for those that are just tuning in, make sure to press like if you haven't already. Steve McRae says, "Love your honesty, brother. Keep the faith." I definitely keep the faith for the long term, and it's definitely my responsibility to fix the problem that YouTube's throwing at me. But with that said, it's almost impossible in the moment as I'm transitioning to the next big step to survive. So we need people's help as much as possible. Those pledges are literally the only thing, and these super chats on here are literally the only thing that's keeping me alive right now, and it's really depressing. really, really depressing. Someone mentioned Bitcoin Cash, so I'm going to copy this to my clipboard, and let's see, how am I going to do this? How am I going to post this up here? Going to send it to a friend and copy and paste it on the laptop. It's brutal. I should have it at the ready here, but I don't. Just gonna send that to my girlfriend. And man, everyone's just tuning out. They're like, yeah, enough of this. But we're gonna get back to you guys with a lot more stuff right away. I just got to get this up so that it's available for people. It's a process. Unfortunately, I'm editing and doing all that stuff live, so it's really hard to focus. Okay, got it. So I'm gonna paste this into the chat, and that's our Bitcoin Cash. HPPHMFJTFWJM. Beautiful name, beautiful. Exactly what I was just thinking, by the way. It says Deutsche Bank news. Yeah, so I don't know what's the latest. There's news almost every day on Deutsche Bank, but as per usual, the shares are down. Let me get this stuff up here. No one went and subscribed to my new channel or my vlog channel. Jeez. Josh Sigurdson on YouTube. Let's see. Deutsche Bank. Let's see what it says in the news here. Trump loses appeal on Deutsche Bank subpoenas. Aged 50 and buying a home. Trend catches Deutsche Bank's eye. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be able to capitalize a lot on that. It's absurd. Yeah, nothing crazy in the news about Deutsche Bank by the looks of it. Just regarding Trump stuff. Nothing to do with the bank itself. The euro is the currency no one wants to own, Deutsche Bank says. That's an interesting thing for them to say. I'll open this for another time. And court deals blow Trump's bid to keep financial records. I'm going to bring this up on the screen for all of you guys so you can see. Appeals court rules Deutsche Bank must turn over Trump financial records to House. Former SAP executives join Deutsche Bank's new technology team. Yeah, it's all Trump stuff. I mean, it is Google, but for those that haven't, like I said earlier, you can join me on float.app, and you can also join me here on this other channel on YouTube where I just post random stuff. No one has joined me since the last time I mentioned, so that's slightly sad. Though I am moving off of YouTube, but hey, whatever. If you want to see stuff like this. Wake Up says, how do I contact you? You can contact me at let's see, let me type this. worldalternativemedia@gmail.com. gmail.com. I'm going to put that in the thing. That YouTube link, by the way, is my other channel that no one subscribes to. But I do post like travel stuff. Thanks to the awesome person named Fred who sent me out to Turkey with him about a month and a half ago. Still got a whole bunch of videos going up on Turkey that I'm sitting on. It's just I'm too busy trying to get videos up, 1 or 2 or 3 a day, editing, that it's impossible to properly edit these videos. Break them down and script them. I'm just working too hard trying to get stuff up on here. If I go one day without posting on here, I go broke. So, yeah, it's not fun. By the way, again, I want to bring up float.app because I think it's incredibly important. I'm also live streaming to float.app right now, just to let you guys know. 1,307 followers to 1,308. So we got 1 new follower since the last time. I appreciate it. So here's the thing. Float is set to replace Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with super chats and the live streams. Monetization coming soon for creators on the platform for videos. So it's gonna be a video oriented site as well. They're in beta still, of course. But on top of that, it's really important to get people's attention on this because one thing that I find really interesting is also the messenger aspect is encrypted. So I think they use the technology that Signal uses. But definitely everyone should get on there. I've never seen so many people flood to a social media so quickly. They are working things out right now, and I'm super, super excited about the future of float.app. Whoa, why is this blue? Oh, that's why. Okay. Man, that's a terrible image of me in the corner. Let's keep that going. So we got 5 people out of 1,000 people watching on here, but when I was posting on Facebook the other day, and by the way, people are working right now, I understand, but when I was posting on Facebook the other day, out of all the people watching, 0 people were watching out of 10,000. So we had 0 people over a half an hour watching out of 10,000 people. Well, what does that tell you, folks? Float has no algorithm and allows you to actually be seen. So that's extraordinarily important. So if you go join us on there, the retention on there is great. And I reach more people on there in many cases than YouTube often with community posts, which is 136,000 people versus 1,000. And I'm still reaching more people on Float. What does that tell you? Shadow banning. That's what it tells you on all these other terrible garbage platforms. that promote pedophilia and rapists and stuff. It's absolutely horrible. So we need your help, guys. We need your help. Do I have it on the screen here? I do not. I should have that on the screen. Thanks to the one other person that joined us on BitChute. And then I don't think anything new on Patreon, but I appreciate. So far, we got $1 in pledges during this live stream. Really appreciate that. We need more, though. We really, really need more. Any help is seriously appreciated, guys. It's the only way we're going to stay alive as a media. Hate to push the point so much, but if I don't, then WAM is finished. It's the only way for me to save this media while I'm transitioning into new ways to make it so I can do this 18 hours a day, every day, all day, every day. Because the harder I work, the more they crack down on me. So if I don't mention it, I go under. So speak now or forever. Hold your peace, my friends. Anyway, I see... Shinobi One sent another New Zealand $3.49. Thank you very much again. I will move to float.app after December 10th. Absolutely. I don't know if they're going to take me down on December 10th. There's a good chance they will, but definitely within either the month after that or the year after that. It's the U.S. elections, 2020 elections. There's no way I'm going to be able to stay up on WAM. Richard A. Stonemason, not a Freemason, says, you on Twitter, Josh? Yes, I am. I'm at World Alt Media. I'll actually bring that up for you guys here. Make sure to come on over and follow me on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as well as World Alternative Media. If you're interested in seeing random pictures and stuff that I don't post anywhere else. So yeah, we are on Twitter. Anyway, so you can go and join us there, World Alt Media. And let's see, anyone join us on Float since the last time? 1,308? Nope, nobody's joined us. All right. Anyway, I think nature is the answer, says so many platforms. Float does look really good. It definitely is awesome. I really do appreciate the platform, and they actually listen to me. A good friend of mine is a CEO and is completely open to making sure that content creators are aided in their ability to reach people, that nothing's going to stop them from reaching people, and that they can speak freely on that platform. I can 100% back that up, and I'm putting my career on the line for it. Kathy Bobathy says a text forum would be good. Yeah, they're doing that on Float. They're going to have subreddit type forums on Float. But I don't think, personally, from my personal perspective, I don't think that's the best way. Because long form video kind of stuff and easy, quick posts, picture, image posts, memes and stuff seem to be the way of the future at the moment. My dad says the notifications don't work for the most part. Yeah. The notifications here on YouTube are absolutely terrible. Some people get reached, but most don't. Big shout out to Darian, who just sent $1 in Patreon pledges. Thank you so much. Again, those Patreon pledges are seriously the only thing keeping us up on our feet right now. Let's refresh that. So that puts us down to $1,203 we need to make by January 1st in monthly pledges. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. It was difficult because we did get down to 1,190 in like 2 days from 1,500, which is great. But then all these people deleted their pledges on the first of the month, and also 1 day before the month ended, so I didn't get any of those pledges. It was bad. I don't know. A lot of that does have to do with me being consistent too, because not everyone's going to like all my videos. In fact, I don't think anyone is going to like all of my videos. I do see we got comments on float.app now. It was a bit slower today because people are working, and usually I do these things a bit later at night. But Patrick McCarthy says, this is awesome. I agree, Patrick. Appreciate you joining us on Float. Always good to see. Let's refresh this a bit. And yeah, and you can send super chats too on Float, which is super cool. And they're implementing Wire or integrating Wire so that you can send fiat and pledges and all that kind of stuff. You can pledge people and get subscriber-only content on Float. It's basically, there's a million options. It's really quite awesome. It's definitely awesome. Anyway, D Silva says, that's me, Darian. Thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate that. Again, those pledges help. I mean, people don't think spending a few minutes putting in a $1 pledge helps. It 100% does. Like, seriously, if more people did that, imagine how easily we could just overthrow the mainstream media and we could survive as independent medias, and we wouldn't have to worry about self-censorship. We wouldn't have to worry about muzzling. We wouldn't have to worry as much about shadow banning, because we could try and actually work towards reaching more people and go on more platforms. And I mean, if I had an editor that edited all my videos, or at least most of them, I could post like 6 or 7 videos a day, stuff like that. But right now I'm just trying to eat, because I haven't been able to afford food. I haven't been able to afford water for the most part. I've been unable to, I'm like 2 months behind on all my bills. It's killing me. I can't do things, and I'm working 24/7 at this. And I went a couple years without making any money. It's not the money. I've been offered $75,000 a year to work for mainstream medias, and I've turned them down because I want to be able to sleep at night. This is about being able to, reach people on a regular basis and not worry about starving to death or being homeless while I'm working on this. It isn't about money. If I can make just enough to be able to survive, that's good enough for me, as long as I can bring information to people. My dad says, so sad that nobody can pledge $1 a month on their $800 phone or expensive laptop. Yeah, well, I mean, we do have a lot of people pledging. It's not enough yet, but every single person helps, and every single person is helping us keep on our feet right now. Beyond Praise says, Float says I'm already on there, yet when I look on my email associated with it, I saw nothing. I'm not sure what to tell you there. You don't remember signing up for Float? Again, it's FLOTE, float.app, not FLOAT. Anyway, you can find all the links below the video in the description. I really appreciate everyone that joins us. Always great to connect with the viewers, and it means a lot to me. So thanks for the super chats to Shinobi Juan, Bitcoin Ben, Martin, and again, Shinobi. Big shout out to all those great people that are helping keep independent medias alive. Thank you to Darian. Thank you to John from before, who sent $1 on Patreon in pledges. It means a great deal to us. It really, truly does. So anyway, we got into some new stuff. I should probably focus on getting my documentary stuff done from Turkey, and I should probably eat eventually. Anyway, appreciate everyone tuning in, and we're gonna get going. Make sure to press like, make sure to share, make sure to check out our most recent videos, bookmark our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, and check back, because YouTube's not showing people it. It's really difficult. We can't reach people. Press to be notified. It's a little bell thing, and click all the time. Click all on the notifications, so at least we can try our best to reach some of you. As D Silva says, everyone send him Bitcoin. It's better. Bitcoin is helpful as well. I really appreciate anyone that can help us out. Well, you can pledge on Bitcoin on float.app, by the way, flote.app. If you join us on there, it can help us out a lot. Shinobi One sent another New Zealand, $3.49. That's my 10 for you. Buy some food, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And again, you guys restore faith in humanity for me. Though the other 99% don't so much, but anyway, we also have Digibyte. This is our Digibyte address. Much appreciated, as always. And yeah, anyway, I'm very hungry and getting dizzy, so I gotta go. Anyway, I really appreciate everyone tuning in today for this episode of WAM News Live. Stay tuned for much more. We're gonna get a lot more happening here. It's rainy as hell here in Las Vegas, and it's putting me to sleep, and I gotta wake myself up. So I'll talk to you guys soon. See, I can't even talk. This is why I'm glad I didn't get into any other reports. I would have passed out. I was getting out of it by the end of that last crypto report. I wasn't even sure what I was talking about. So anyway, stay tuned for more. Make sure to press like if you haven't already. Share the video. Help us with the algorithm. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth. Be the change. Also, Epstein didn't kill himself, just to be 100% clear there. And free Ross and free Julian Assange and free Chelsea Manning and all that fun stuff. Oh, yeah, and taxation is theft and government is organized crime. I can't forget that. See you later, guys.